Good morning, students. I am Dr. Ivy Banerjee. Hope you are all in good health. Today we will be talking about the charts based on acidosis. Next slide. At first, look at the reference values of some important parameters which are very important in assessment of acid-base disturbances. First of all, that is the blood pH, which is 7.4, around 7.4, and the range is 7.38 to 7.42. And the patient is suffering from acidosis when his or her blood pH is below 7.35, and in case of alkalosis the blood pH will be 7.45 or above. And remember one important thing, at health the blood pH is when 7.4, the dissolved bicarbonate in blood is to dissolved carbon dioxide in blood, this ratio will be around 20:1. And in case of acidosis, that is the pH 7.3, this ratio comes down to 16:1, that is the dissolved bicarbonate is to dissolved carbon dioxide level in the blood at pH 7.3 will be 16:1. This is the case of acidosis. And next, the serum bicarbonate level, which is to be within 22 to 28 milliequivalent per liter. PaCO2 will be 35 to 45 mm of Ag, and PaO2 will be around more than 80 mm of Ag, and in health actually it is more than 90 mm of Ag. And this is the normal level of serum chloride, that is 102 to 109 millimole per liter. Serum sodium level 135 to 145 millimole per liter, and in case of serum potassium it will be 3.5 to 5 millimole per liter. And lastly, that is the very important thing in case of acid base disturbances, mainly the acidosis, that is the anion gap. Now what is anion gap? Anion gap is the difference of the total measured positive ions minus negative ions in the blood. And you know that which are the main positive ions that is circulating in the blood, that is the sodium and potassium ion, and the main negative ions, negatively charged ions in the blood is chloride and bicarbonate. So the anion gap is measured summation of sodium and potassium ion minus summation of chloride plus bicarbonate ions, and the value will be around 12. When the value of anion gap is above 12, then it will be high anion gap. In case of acidosis, it has a very important implication which will you learn in this class later on. Now next slide. Now again this slide I have discussed in the classes of alkalosis. Just I am giving a quick recap. That is the classification of the acid base disturbances. Now you all know from the theoretical classes that acid base disturbances will be either alkalosis or acidosis, and today our topic of discussion is acidosis. So we will learn the acidosis first. Now the acidosis can be again classified into two types, that is metabolic and respiratory, and this is again based on the causation, how the acidosis is caused. In case of metabolic acidosis, there is what is the primary defect? The primary defect is bicarbonate deficit, that is a primary base deficit. The primary base that is present in our system is the bicarbonate. So when there is bicarbonate deficit or the primary base deficit, then it will be a metabolic acidosis. In case of respiratory acidosis, as the name suggests that respiratory apparatus is involved here. So here what you can expect, that is the dissolved carbon dioxide excess or the primary acid excess. The primary acid that is present in our system is the dissolved carbon dioxide. So when it is excess, it is present in excess in the body, then it will lead to acidosis, and this type of acidosis will be called respiratory acidosis. Now why respiratory? Because the carbon dioxide level, the regulator of carbon dioxide level in our body is the respiratory system, that is the lung. So it is the respiratory acidosis. And in case of alkalosis, the thing is just reverse. In case of metabolic alkalosis, there will be primary base excess, and in case of respiratory alkalosis, there will be primary acid deficit. So this is the classification of acid base disturbances in nutshell. Now I am going to the topic proper. Now this is again a repetition slide from the alkalosis classes, that is the step of assessment of the acid base disturbances. Now actually there is a systemic way of assessment of acid base disturbances. Whenever a chart is given to you in your exam and this chart is having a clinical pictures suggestive of acid base disturbances, you have to proceed in a systematic manner. Now what is the systematic manner? First of all, look at the pH, whether the pH is higher side or lower side. If the pH is below the reference level, then it is acidosis, and if it is above the reference level, then it is alkalosis. So first thing, look at the pH and determine whether it is a case of acidosis or alkalosis. Now what is the next step? The next step, you have to look on the status of the serum bicarbonate, dissolved carbon dioxide and PaCO2 and PaO2 levels. Now from this information, that is the status of bicarbonate, dissolved carbon dioxide, PaCO2 and PaO2, you have to look for which of the parameters are on higher side and which of the parameters are on lower side. By this you can determine what is the primary defect, that is the base excess or base deficit, or acid excess or acid deficit. According to this, you can diagnose what is the type of acid base disturbances. Now the type of acid base disturbances is established. Now lastly, you have to look for the cause or the precipitating factors or associated electrolyte disturbances or any other feature if present. So this is the step of assessment of acid base disturbances. Now I am again recapitulating the steps. First of all, look at the pH, then look at the serum bicarbonate, dissolved carbon dioxide, PaCO2, PaO2 level, and see what is the primary defect here, acid excess or acid deficit, base excess or base deficit. Now third step, from these information, diagnose the type of the acid base disturbances, and lastly look for any other associated feature or the cause or the precipitating factor of these disturbances or any electrolyte disturbances if anything is present. Now this is the step of assessment. Now next, now I am going to the case proper. In the exam you will be given this type of charts and you have to diagnose and you have to face the viva questions from these charts. So the first chart is stating that a patient came to the emergency with shortness of breath. He was admitted in CCU and the blood and urine samples were sent to the laboratory for analysis. Now the following were the laboratory findings. Rothera's test for urine is negative. Benedict's test for urine is negative. pH is 7.2. PaCO2 is 64 mm of Hg. PaO2 is 82 mm of Hg. Serum bicarbonate is 25 milliequivalent per liter. So what is your interpretation from this chart? Now again follow that general rule. First look at the pH. So the pH is on lower side than the reference level. So it is a case of acidosis. Clear? Now next you have to look on the bicarbonate level, PaCO2 and PaO2 level. And here you can see that PaCO2 is elevated. PaCO2 is elevated. That is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is elevated. So as the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is elevated, so the dissolved carbon dioxide in the system will also be elevated. So this is a case of primary acid excess. And look at the bicarbonate level. The serum bicarbonate level is essentially normal. So there is no base deficit. So it is a acidosis and there is primary acid excess without no base deficit. No base deficit, acid excess. So it is a case of respiratory acidosis. And now the last step, look at the associated feature or any causative or precipitating factor is there or not. And what is these type of extra information that is given here? That is the Rothera's test of urine is negative. Now what we can be able to learn from the Rothera's test, that is the presence of ketone body in the urine. So if it is negative, then there is no ketone body in the urine. And another thing, the Benedict test for urine is also negative. What you can say when the Benedict test of urine is negative? That you can say that there is no reducing substances in the urine. And what is the predominant reducing substances in the urine that you expect? That is the sugar. So you can say that as the urine shows negative Rothera's test and negative Benedict test, so there is no ketone body and glucose present in the urine. So this condition is not related to, this acidosis is not related to the diabetes. In the diabetes, when you go to the carbohydrate metabolism, you will learn that in case of uncontrolled diabetes, you can expect ketone body and reducing substances in the urine. So these are not present here. So this condition is unrelated to the diabetic complication. So it is a case of clear-cut respiratory acidosis. So next slide. Now what happened in this case? That is, what is the pathophysiology here? How respiratory acidosis occurred here? You have learned that in this chart it is given that the patient has breathing difficulty. So here there is a primary defect is hypercapnia or decreased elimination of carbon dioxide via respiratory route. As the patient is suffering from shortness of breath, he cannot breathing proper. He are not breathing proper. He is not breathing properly. And what is the effect of this? The carbon dioxide will not be washed off from the body. So there will be a conditions with accumulation of carbon dioxide in the blood. This leads to the increased dissolved carbon dioxide in the blood. And there is increased dissolved carbon dioxide in the blood, so there will be increased carbonic acid in the blood. So there will be decreased bicarbonate is to dissolved carbon dioxide ratio in the blood. This leads to the respiratory acidosis with the primary acid excess. So this is the pathophysiology present here. Now next slide. That is the next question you can expect from this chart is, what are the other conditions that can lead to the respiratory acidosis? Now the other conditions that can lead to respiratory acidosis comes under three subheadings. What are those three subheadings? First of all, there are some conditions which can directly depress the respiratory center, and this effects will lead to the less respiration. Now what are those factors which can directly depress the respiratory center, leading to the accumulation of carbon dioxide in the system? That is the first of all, there are some drugs like barbiturates, narcotics or sleeping pills. These can directly depress the respiratory center, leading to the less respiration and increase accumulation of carbon dioxide in the blood. And the other things like central nervous system trauma, central nervous system tumor, degenerative central nervous system diseases, coma, primary cerebral hypoventilation, all these directly depress the respiratory center, leading to the accumulation of carbon dioxide inside the system. Now next subheading is affecting the respiratory apparatus. There are some factors which can affect the respiratory apparatus. For this reason, there will be less exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide by lungs. These factors are like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, status asthmaticus, acute respiratory distress syndrome, chest wall deformity, neurological diseases affecting the respiratory muscles, severe pulmonary fibrosis, and tumors of upper respiratory tract or laryngospasm. Now among these, the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, pulmonary fibrosis, status asthmaticus, acute respiratory distress syndrome, all these things leads to the decreased capacity of lung to exchange the carbon dioxide for oxygen. And the other causes, that is the chest wall deformity, neurological diseases affecting the respiratory muscles. In this case, what happens, the lung will not be expanded properly during the inspiration, and during the expiration the lungs cannot be properly contracted. There is less chest wall movement or the chest wall muscle movement. For this reason, there will be hamperment of lung expansion and contraction. This leads to the defective function of the lung, and there will be there will be no proper respiration, leading to the accumulation of carbon dioxide inside the system. And there are some other factors also, like abdominal distension due to ascites and peritonitis. Again the same thing, the ascites and peritonitis leads to the what you can say, that the abdomen is very much full, and for this reason the lungs will not getting enough space to expand. For this reason there will be less respiration, less efficient respiration, and leading to the accumulation of carbon dioxide inside the body. And another thing is extreme obesity. This is again a condition which leads to the improper expansion and contraction of the lungs, leading to the accumulation of carbon dioxide. And another very important causative factor, that is the obstructive sleep apnea. What is obstructive sleep apnea? In case of obstructive sleep apnea, it's a sleep disorder. What happens here? The patient sleeps in the night. During the deep sleep, suddenly there is involuntary cessation of respiration for some time. Thereafter again patient breathes normally, and after some time again there will be involuntary cessation of respiration for the time being, and again the patient leads normal respiration, and this cycle goes on and on. And for this during the sleep there will be a less amount of carbon dioxide expelling out by the lung, and there will be accumulation of carbon dioxide in the lungs as there is hamperment of respiration. So this is a sleep disorder called obstructive sleep apnea. This leads to the respiratory acidosis. Now these are the mainly important conditions leading to respiratory acidosis. You will be asked in the exam, and you have to say. Now next slide. Now going to the another chart. This is a new chart, and what it is written here, that a middle-aged patient was admitted in emergency ward in drowsy condition. Family members stated that he had biryani at lunch in a local restaurant yesterday. Since last night he was passing stool about 12 times. His blood samples were sent to the analysis in the laboratory, showed the following results. The pH is 7.25, PaO2 is 90 mm of Hg, PaCO2 35 mm of Hg, serum bicarbonate is 18 milliequivalent per liter, serum sodium is 128 milliequivalent per liter, sodium potassium is 3 milliequivalent per liter, and serum chloride is 112 milliequivalent per liter. Now what is the diagnosis here? Now again follow that rule. First look at the pH, and pH is low, so it is a acidosis. Now look at the other parameters, that is serum bicarbonate. Serum bicarbonate is low here, that is 18 milliequivalent per liter. So it is definitely lower than the normal value, that the reference value. So there is primary base deficit. And now look at the partial pressure of carbon dioxide level. Now what is the level of partial pressure of carbon dioxide? It is normal. So there is no acid excess. So what is the inference here? It is a acidosis with primary base deficit, no acid excess. So it is a case of metabolic acidosis. Clear? Now look at the associated factors, that is the electrolyte imbalance or any causative factors that is present or not. Now look at the other parameters, that is the electrolyte parameter. Now you can say that there is hyponatremia, that is sodium level is low, potassium level is low, so there is hypokalemia. So hyponatremia and hypokalemia is present, that is low sodium and low potassium levels in the serum. And there is hyperchloremia, that is the chloride level is on the higher side. So hypokalemia, hyponatremia, hyperchloremia. And now calculate the anion gap. Now you can calculate the anion gap here, and the anion gap is here 1, that is essentially normal. So what is the final diagnosis? So the final diagnosis is, it is a hyponatremic, hypokalemic, hyperchloremic, normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So this is the full diagnosis. Another I am repeating the diagnosis: hypokalemic, hyponatremic, hyperchloremic, normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So in case of the metabolic acidosis, you have to calculate the anion gap if the parameters are given. Next, now coming to the pathophysiology in this case. What happened in this case that leads to the metabolic acidosis? Here the patient is suffering from diarrhea. So through the stool the electrolytes are lost. So the sodium is lost, potassium is lost, bicarbonate is lost, and also water is lost. So there is loss of sodium, potassium and bicarbonate. So all this level will be low. And another thing, from the large gut, huge amount of water, sodium, potassium and bicarbonates are also reabsorbed. As the patient is suffering from diarrhea, there will be no reabsorption of all these electrolytes also. So there will be low sodium, low potassium and low bicarbonate. And as the bicarbonate is also lost, so there will be primary base deficit. Now I am telling another thing here. The stool is very much rich in bicarbonate, and when the diarrhea occurs, there will be huge loss of bicarbonate through stool. So why this happens? From where this bicarbonate comes in the stool? The bicarbonate that is present in the stool all comes from the pancreatic juice. The pancreatic juice is very high in bicarbonate content. When the pancreatic juice mixes with the stool, then the stool becomes alkaline and the bicarbonate rich. And when the bicarbonate rich stool is lost through the diarrhea, there will be bicarbonate deficit or primary base deficit. And from the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, you have seen that there is no acid excess. So primary base deficit, no acid excess. So it is a case of metabolic acidosis. Now another thing, as the sodium, potassium and bicarbonates are lost through the blood, through the diarrhea, through stool, so there will be low level of sodium, potassium and bicarbonate, it is clear. Now another thing you can find here, that is hyperchloremia. The chloride level is high. Why so? Because there is huge loss of negative ion, that is bicarbonate, through the stool. So to compensate that, body will try to retain chloride ions. This leads to the hyperchloremia. So the case is here hypokalemia, hyponatremia and hyperchloremia with metabolic acidosis. And another thing, the anion gap is also normal. So it is a case of hypokalemic, hyponatremic, hyperchloremic, normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now next slide. Now next question, what you will be asked in the exam, that is the types of metabolic acidosis with causes. Now metabolic acidosis, as I have discussed that anion gap is very much important in case of metabolic acidosis. The types of metabolic acidosis depends on the anion gap. There are many conditions which can lead to high anion gap metabolic acidosis or normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now coming to the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis that is present in this example on this chart. Now here GI fluid loss, that is diarrhea, pancreatitis, intestinal fistula, whenever there will be fluid loss from the GIT, that is the lower GIT, lower gastrointestinal tract, there will be normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. And another thing, another cause of the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis is renal tubular acidosis. Now there are many types of renal tubular acidosis, 4 types of renal tubular acidosis, but remember type 1, type 2 and type 4. These 3 types are associated with normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So renal tubular acidosis type 1, type 2 and type 4 are associated with normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now remember that there are many areas, many overlapping areas in biochem and physiology. Renal tubular acidosis is such a topic and it is decided to cover in the physiology classes in details. So there you can understand what is the cause of the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis in renal tubular acidosis. Now what happens in the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis is there is bicarbonate loss through the gastrointestinal tract, or there will be decreased acid excretion by the kidney. Actually in the renal tubular acidosis what happens, there is decreased acid excretion by the kidney, which leads to the relative deficiency of bicarbonate in the body. So this leads to the normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Now I am coming to the high anion gap metabolic acidosis. So the high anion gap metabolic acidosis, what happens here? Here actually due to any cause, high organic or inorganic acids are added to the system, which leads to relative bicarbonate or base deficit. So actually suppose that what is the thing that happens here, suppose you have a one glass full of water. In the water there is bicarbonate as well as acids in a equilibrium form. But if you goes adding on organic acid or inorganic acid inside that glass, what happens? There will be relative base deficit. There will be excess of acids are added, so the solution will be acidic. This is the thing that happens here in case of high anion gap metabolic acidosis. There will be excess inorganic or organic acids added to the system due to any cause, which leads to the relative bicarbonate deficit. Now what are those causes? First very common cause, that is methanol toxicity or ethanol toxicity. In case of methanol ingestion or ethanol ingestion, what happens? These are alcohol inside the body. During the metabolic process they forms the acid, which is added to the system, and this leads to the acid excess, leading to the relative bicarbonate deficiency. Now another thing, that is the lactic acidosis. This is again a cause where the acids are excess amount added to the system, leading to the metabolic acidosis, relative base deficit. And another thing, that is the ketoacidosis, that is diabetic ketoacidosis, starvation ketoacidosis, alcoholic malnutrition. All will be discussed in the how they cause the ketoacidosis, that is the excess of ketone body are produced in the diabetes, starvation and ethanol toxicity, alcoholic malnutrition. This will be discussed in the metabolism classes, but for the time being just remember that in case of uncontrolled diabetes, starvation and alcoholic malnutrition, what happens? There will be excess generation of ketoacidosis, ketoacids through the various metabolic pathway, and ketones are actually acid in nature. For this there will be acid excess in the system and there will be relative bicarbonate deficiency. And another such condition is paraldehyde toxicity or salicylate toxicity. Now remember, paraldehydes are one kind of medicine, and salicylates are also one kind of medicine that is very much popularly used as aspirin. Aspirin is one salicylate product. You all take this during headache or fever. Aspirin is very much used. And in case of aspirin toxicity, that is the salicylate toxicity, what happens? These salicylates during the metabolic process forms acid, and these acids are added to the system, leading to the bicarbonate or base deficit. All this leads to the high anion gap metabolic acidosis. So what is metabolic acidosis? That is somehow base deficit, that is somehow in body there is deficit of bicarbonate happened. And how this deficiency of bicarbonate happened? From the two types of causes, high anion gap or normal anion gap causes. If high anion gap metabolic acidosis is caused in the system, here the base deficit or the bicarbonate deficit is due to adding of organic or inorganic acids into the system. So here, as the organic or inorganic acids are added in the system, this leads to the base deficiency. And in case of normal anion gap metabolic acidosis, the bicarbonate itself is lost, leading to the bicarbonate deficit. So these are the types of metabolic acidosis with the cause. I think it is clear. So I am again marking up: the metabolic acidosis is due to bicarbonate deficit, and respiratory acidosis is due to the dissolved carbon dioxide excess. Metabolic base deficit and respiratory acidosis is dissolved carbon dioxide excess. Remember it clearly. For the rest of the life, you have to remember it clearly. Okay? Now, next slide. Now we have come to the end of the presentation. Now these are the extra some questions are given here. These are the probable viva questions from the acidosis alkalosis charts. That is, you may ask what are the causes and types of acidosis that I have discussed. What is the anion gap? I have discussed also. And what are the high anion gap and low anion gap metabolic acidosis? Compensatory metabolism acting in the body in case of acidosis. This is discussed in the theory classes. And another thing, how normal body pH is maintained, important buffer system of the blood, why hemoglobin can act as buffer, role of kidney and lung in the maintenance of pH. These are the probable important viva question that you expect in the acidosis alkalosis, from the acidosis alkalosis chart. Hope you have learned it well. If you have any query, then contact us in the department. Thank you.